Now it's the time for what all players love to hate. It's time to throw their characters' backstories right back at their faces. Why? Because it rewards players' investment into their characters, gets them thrilled and hooked on the adventure, and promotes a strong character arc development. I'm gonna show you how I brought my players' backstories to life using key NPCs from my last campaign in 4 specific roles: friends, patrons, victims, and villains. Come, let's cook some emotional scarring together. Many players develop unique and compelling backstories for their characters. Unfortunately, it's relatively easy for a DM to ignore their backstories to focus on the main plot. After running several adventures, I found the missing link I needed to bring backstories to the front stage of a campaign: NPCs. Yes, you heard it right, non-player characters. Let me show you how. If players invest time and energy to create their backstories, it can be frustrating not to see that payoff. On the other hand, when players feel that their backstories are about to show up in a campaign, we immediately see the tension and expectation building up. And there are 3 good reasons for that. 1. Immersion. When their backstories are under the spotlight, players feel their characters are the real stars of the campaign. 2. Engagement. Players feel that the lore and tales they've created for their characters contribute to the overall campaign and that we are collectively telling a story. 3. Excitement. When players know they were the ones to plant the seeds of a given plot, they're more curious to see it developing. I usually ask my players to bring their characters ready for our session 0. Before that, we settle on campaign length, play style, game mood, adventure genre, and setting. You know, just so that this doesn't happen. With that, we can work together in session 0 to fine-tune characters and go through their backstories, creating deeper links to the campaign. That's when I establish with players who are the key NPCs for their characters. I usually look for 4 possible categories: established friends and patrons, and potential victims and villains. So your warlock made a pact with an ancient demon and you seek a way to break this bond? Well, let's make sure you have an NPC friend whom you trust to discuss your story, goals, and motivations so that we can bring that to life in our campaign. If your paladin follows a chivalry order of Tempus, the deity of war, it makes sense that you have a patron to answer to. This NPC can provide quests, make the character's background come alive, and even provide in-game explanations for level advancements. If your rogue's a conman with a good heart, maybe his kinda side shows up with this old lady he's fond of, who may become a victim of evil deeds in a future adventure. And if your character has a shaky relationship with his father, we might be talking about a future villain for our campaign. On session 0, we might not know how we'll connect backstories to our campaign. But once every character has at least 1 key NPC in their backstories, we can use an easy link to bring that backstory to life in the future. When creating a D&D character, I think there's nothing more important than establishing its goals and motivations. They're the underlying rational and emotional elements that dictate every decision and action. But how can we connect those goals and motivations to our adventures? Once we've ensured the character's goals and motivations fit our campaign, the next step is enabling them to be impactful. The most effective way is to include at least 1 NPC friend in every backstory. By friend, I mean any NPC with whom the character has a trusting connection, a relative, a love interest, or an acquaintance. That allows us to bring those NPCs to the campaign whenever they're useful. Interactions with them provide great role-playing opportunities to discuss the characters' backstories, uncertainties, decisions, actions, and plans. They're also a channel to bring new information and develop the character's story arc. See the example of Oriana Faith. Oriana was born in a small village founded by tiefling refugees. Daily life was stoic and dedicated to communal farming. Everything changed when Oriana found a monolith scarred with exotic runes in the woods. When she touched the monolith, she formed a pact with an extraplanar entity. In exchange for extraordinary powers, Oriana was to keep her patron's name a secret to herself. When her powers first manifested, she was banned from her family and village. Oriana grew up alone, obsessed with finding a way to break her pact. In her travels, she met the halfling druid Werner Marshworth, who possessed a tapestry illustrating twin magic orbs engraved with similar runes to the obelisk of her youth. Since then, Werner has helped Oriana investigate the relationship between her powers and those magical orbs. This simple backstory has everything a DM needs: a character's origin, goals and motivations, an NPC, and an adventure hook. At some point, Oriana hears rumors that the magic orbs might be in the ancient mines of Gantoril and plans an incursion, but first she decides to visit Werner. Werner asks her friend to retell how Oriana gained her powers, an opportunity to bring the character's backstory, goals and motivations to the front stage. The interaction goes on. Werner removes the old tapestry from a wooden chest and extends it. "Look, child, those are infernal runes. See the twin orbs illustration? Those are the same runes you saw in Monolith, aren't they? Listen carefully. I've heard stories from the wildlife around the mines of Gantoril. I suspect the mines have been tainted by the 9 hells. Whatever you do, tread carefully, my handsome tiefling." What was a classic origin backstory became an adventure plot. What was an NPC name became an opportunity to shed new light on Oriana's backstory. Her player was thrilled that her story was under the spotlight. The other players were excited to learn about their friend's past and to help her pursue her origins. And everyone was eager to see how her story was going to develop. Help your players create at least one NPC friend in their characters' backstories. They are a powerful link you can tap into to bring their backstories to the spotlight. Backgrounds were supposed to be valuable tools to help players build their characters' origins and personalities. As D&D evolves, they're gaining more gameplay importance. And yet, there's something that can be easily left aside. How many times did one of your characters' backgrounds make a difference in your last campaign? It's a small shame that backgrounds are not that much used, as they provide great role-playing opportunities. But there's a simple way you can make them meaningful. Many backgrounds almost ask players to establish a patron NPC. A noble's family, a merchant's trade master, an acolyte's archpriest, or a criminal's underworld contact. Asking players to create such NPCs brings many advantages. You can rely on different patrons to provide more personal quests, better linked to the characters' backstories. They can also offer in-game explanations for new features and spells that characters acquire as they advance level. This is Olga Derendal. Olga is a knight from a noble family of Arabel. From an early age, she was groomed to sword fight. In her family estate, there's a vast tapestry with her family tree, where one can see a wealth of coats of arms of her ancestors. Skilled knights and paladins who dedicated their lives to serve many of the gods and orders of Faerun. Olga is a paladin of Tempus, the deity of war. She strictly follows the honor of Tempus. War is a means to spare the most lives in the long run, even if it requires force in the short run. Conflicts should be brief, decisive, and as safe as possible for those not directly involved. Arm anyone who has need of a weapon. Disparage no foe. Acquit oneself with bravery. Train for all battle, and don't engage in feuds. Olga is part of an elite military order. Her immediate superior is Rowan Greycastle, an honorable and diligent knight and tutor. Order members are assigned dangerous tasks, and Olga dreams of proving herself worthy of embroidering her emblem in her family's tapestry. Establishing Rowan Greycastle and her order in Olga's backstory brings in-game benefits. Olga can reach out for counseling with Rowan. During downtime, she can learn new fighting styles and the ancient secrets of divine might and spellcasting. Rowan can also act as one of the patrons of Olga's adventuring party. Bandits are assaulting the roads and farmlands north of Arabelle. They're stealthy and swift, and the kingdom's militia hasn't been able to neutralize them, for such attacks demand a subtle approach. We want you and your friends to disguise as a merchant caravan to attract the bandits and stop their aggressions. Don't cast your characters' backgrounds aside. Work with your players to develop their organizations and patrons. With little effort, you will quickly reap the benefits of meaningful backgrounds to your characters and campaign. One of the most underwhelming things in D&D is that feeling of, oh, there's another random quest provided by a disconnected patron to save unknown people. Of course, a premise like that can become a great game session, but it certainly doesn't excite me from page 1. So what can we do to turn adventures into a more personal quest for players? One way is to use NPCs, friends, family, and patrons from characters' backstories as victims of the adventure's villain. That immediately turns what would be an unconnected quest into a personal issue. There are a couple of pitfalls to work around though. 1. Emotional connection. Even if a backstory says that a particular NPC is beloved by a character, that NPC is only a name on paper. If we want to use key NPCs as victims, they should first interact with players in a few initial sessions. Once players bond and grow fond of that NPC, that's when we crush their hearts. 2. Frustration. Killing a beloved NPC can easily backfire into frustration for players. If it happens on screen, players should always have a fair chance of saving them, and killing them off-screen should be used with caution. Rescuing or saving NPCs from a high-risk situation is as immersive as killing them and much less frustrating for players. Let me share the story of Ulrich Gormon. Gormon was the single son of stallholders. His parents were murdered by mob men who tried to extort them. Gormon grew up on the streets as an urchin and later became a conman, living out of small sleight-of-hand tricks. Despite his shady means to earn a living, Gormon has a big heart. He lives in a small rented room in the house of Gertrude Falcon, a market stallholder as his parents used to be. She often invites him to eat and share stories. Imagine that we've role-played this interaction a few times in between adventures to further develop this relationship and showcase Gertrude's kindness. And then, after barely surviving your latest adventure, you arrive home weary and injured. As you open the door, Gertrude rushes in your direction. "Ulrich, whatever happened to you?" Gertrude tends to your wounds. She offers cheese and wild berries jam that tastes like home. She delights herself with your stories of adventure and magic. When you're about to retire, you notice the slightest hue of sorrow on her face. Perhaps you ask what's wrong. "Oh dear, you know how life is for us common folk. The guards, well, the corrupted ones, they came and took 1 week worth of labor from me in exchange for their protection. It's still sinking in on me. Don't worry, tomorrow I'll be fine." Well, that should be enough to provide Ulrich with some extra motivation when he finds out that the corrupted Ciri guards are the villains of our next adventure. When we're running a campaign, there are significant benefits to developing the NPCs from the players' backstories. Short interactions along a few sessions are typically enough for players to create bonds. We can use them to support the character's story arc development, or, if we're feeling evil, as victims of our next villain's evil deeds. Oh, so your backstory says you have this bad blood with someone you've known, eh? Good to know. Wait and see what's in store for you. Players pretend they don't like when you grab their backstories and throw them right back at their faces. But the truth is, we love to do it, and they also love it. When we do that, we show appreciation for their contribution to our collective storytelling and make their characters the stars of the show. That approach also allows us to solve one of the significant challenges of D&D, developing a relationship with the main villain before the ultimate face-off. See that for yourself in the story of Thorandir Gantoril. Thorandir and his clan took refuge in the kingdom of Cormyr after the fall of their great dwarf hold to the orcs. He joined the Purple Dragon army and received military training. He quickly stood out for his rigorous ethics and tactical genius on the battlefield. He considers his rank a source of duty and honor and is proud to serve his queen. Sadly, his political views clash with his father's, who became the military aide to the Grand Senator and his republican ideals. Thorandir loves his father and longs to appease the hatred in his father's heart, but they're currently strained and no longer speak to each other. The political conflict develops. The Republican forces overturn the government, and Thorandir's father is designated the commander of the Republican army. The kingdom is on the verge of a civil war. Before that, Thorandir has a chance to bring his father to his senses. Lord Commander Gantril approaches, mounted on his giant goat. He salutes you with excessive formality and listens attentively to what you have to say before he answers. You say you want to talk, but what have you to say, boy? Now that you can no longer hide under your queen's skirt, you reach out for me, but what have you achieved with your war games, huh? You sided with the wrong people, years without addressing a single word to me, and then you come to my barracks to challenge me, boy? I have nothing to say to you. Consider yourself stripped from your officer rank. Go wake up before sunrise and bake breads for a living. The campaign would go on, and Banthery would not only remain loyal to the Republican forces, but also commit atrocious acts in their names, much to Thorandir's disappointment. They would meet again one last time on the battlefield. By then, Banthery had already become one of the key villains of our campaign, straight out of Thorandir's backstory. Encourage your players to detail conflictful relationships from their backstories into NPCs. They're the seed to develop intimate villains and ultimately throw their backstories back at them for our players' delight. Can you feel the tension and anticipation when we're about to use our players' backstories against them? After all, it's their contribution to the story coming to life and putting them under the spotlight. NPCs hold the key to tying backstories into campaigns. We should encourage players to describe a few of their characters' friends, relatives, rivals, or patrons, while we map out potential victims and villains. If that's useful for you, subscribe and follow our social networks for more content. All links are in the description below. Thanks for sharing your time with us. We are the Deep Dice Press.